Day 6 of the November 99 7-day retreat in Springwater. Day 6 of the November 99 7-day retreat in Springwater. Last night in the meeting, pretty much in the beginning, I felt an urgency to give a few non-binding tips to people out of my own experience. First of all, many people sort of complain about so many fantasies, so many daydreams, thoughts swirling around, caught up in them. And when I look around sometime in the sitting room, I find many people who do look sleepy have their eyes closed. So a tip which was already given the first night, if you find yourself battling with dreaminess or tranciness, lots of fantasies, try keeping your eyes open. At first, that's sort of a disturbance to this state which one complains about, but also it wants to persevere. Dreaming seems easier than being awake. So I keep my eyes closed during a talk, so don't take that as a model. When I sit, I have them open most of the time. And not wide open to see things, but half open, half closed. It is a posture that you can see, a posture of the eyes you can see on pretty much all the Eastern iconography. There is wisdom to that. It has these half-open, half-closed eyes the eyeballs don't roll around to see something. They're just open without trying to focus on something. They have a direct connection with an alert brain. No guarantee, but there is a connection. It took me, I don't quite recall, but over a year, I think, for this to become natural, a new natural posture of the eyes. My eyes were tearing tremendously, not from sorrow, but because these eyes were not used to being relaxed. They want to see things and know things. Because what we see, we know because the brain immediately interprets it and brings its reactions to it, its knowledge, its past feelings. So for the eyes to relax, for me, was a strain on them, seeming strain. But at that time, I had no choice. If you had your eyes closed, you were getting a note. Keep your eyes open. The other thing is posture, which you probably have hardly ever heard me talk about. But I found myself that if we want to relax, we relax and we slouch. It feels good to a strained or tired body to slouch, at least for a while, until the slouching itself becomes a muscle ache. And of course, when tired, lie down and sleep if you can, or lie down. And what I'm saying is not so for everyone, but I'm still putting it out. When relaxing, take an easy chair and slouch. When sleeping, lie down. everybody who flies airplane knows those are not conducive to sleeping. These straight back chairs with a dent in the back, I don't know whoever invented it. But when you want to sit and listen or inquire into something, sit with as straight a back as possible without becoming rigid or image-ridden about my posture. The back will erect itself as the mind opens up or empties out. And this body is not unconnected from our state of being. It is totally interconnected with it. In pain, sorrow, anger, fear, and in clarity, the body manifests the state and helps with it. So I found, particularly in this retreat, where there's so much pain, so much longing and tearing and remembering, not long indulgent memories. On the contrary, one frame of memory, and the body manifests the pain and the loss. But coming in here, sitting down, particularly on my free days, but on the other days too, the conduction of energy of this body changed. As it does for human beings. That's the marvel of being a human being. The conduction away from networking in the memories and the story with its pain, sorrow, or whatever it may be at the time, anger maybe, or fear. We all know it, we all watch it. This energy traveling in the networking, which was just described, can travel freely and clear the mind. Open up to this undivided wholeness, which we are in our essence. So it is marvelous, after so many years of doing this, to really be very aware in the difference of body holding, body conduction of energy, which is not something the body was trained to do per se. It did it, accompanying what else went on. And that's why it has an essential meaning to come to a retreat or to do some sitting, to do some dialoguing, which is not just storytelling. Storytelling is networking most of the time, unless at one point we begin to look at what are we saying, what are we doing, where am I, where is everybody else? Sort of a shift from the video watching to inquiring, alerting, awareing, which the body accompanies with a freestanding spine. One knows not what supports it. The energy itself. So to the extent that one does a lot of retreating or dialoguing in the latter sense, not just supporting each other with opinions or stories, but a questioning mind, to that extent this body has an opportunity to readjust itself to that mode of being. Mode is too small a term for it, but we'll use it right now. It's our true being. And all the questions that have surfaced about effort, should I make an effort or not? We were talking about that last night too. to relax, lie on the sofa, something under the knees, feet propped up. It's wonderful for the body which is tense or tired. Read something, dream, think. And then there is this amazing phenomenon, not just for human beings, but for all matter, that it is inert. It sort of manifests inertia, which is sort of wanting to persevere in this state, which is just happens to be there. We can all watch it, we can all observe it, we're all familiar with it. And then comes a point, like a fork in the road. Either one perseveres and the thing doesn't really feel quite good anymore, the lounging or the watching TV or whatever. But this drive to persevere, to keep on going, the basic inertia of matter. Buddhists call it sloth and torpor. And the possibility of getting up. Just getting up. And finding this is not the only mode in which one can or needs to exist, this inert mode. So is that an effort? It is an effort insofar as the inertia has its own energy to continue. But the effort doesn't need to take long, because getting up and changing the mode has its own fresh energy. It's a relief. One hadn't known how good it is to get up and do something else, go for a walk or sit. Maybe do some exercises, stretch. So not to underrate the inertia, but to learn about it, to learn to recognize it and question it, without establishing now a whole lot of new principles of what I should do, A, B, C. It has to come out of a presence and wisdom which is embedded in the presence. And an experimental spirit. Curiosity. How is it if against all feelings I change right now? Get up, go sit or whatever. Now we come to what several people in this retreat have brought up: moments of opening, presence, glimpse of. One can't put it into words. The words are not the truth, the reality of being present without any feeling of separation or division. Often with some love manifesting, or energy, maybe. Sometimes the glimpse is so brief that hasn't been noticed or hasn't appeared. Sometimes the glimpse is such that what we are doing and what we seem to be seeing everybody else around us doing is so laughable, so ridiculous, comical, that laughter peals or pearls forth. Maybe just a smile on the face, or that, which, if I may sidestep for a moment, somebody asked, what's the role of laughter and humor in this practice? Or in this work? And I didn't quite know how to deal with this, because it's as though there's a sphere of humor and then there is this work. And what does one have to do with the other? Or why don't we laugh more? Why do we look so serious? Let laughter do its own thing. If one is endeavoring to laugh, then it's an artificial affair in which we're very much bathed. It's hardly any address or speech that any speaker starts with without starting with a joke. it gives a certain sense of power and gets over the fear of I don't know whether I'm going to say what I want to say or bring the audience together. Let laughter and humor take its own course, which it does, as I just described, how at times laughable it is, how we are so stuck in such meaningless, illusory stuff. But you can't just say that, you have to see it. And what, of course, happens, particularly when these moments first manifest of openness and freedom, non-self-centeredness, non-self-consciousness. Thought comes in there and wants to interpret this thing. And depending partly on one's disposition, one may be pessimistic, a negativistic person, tending to depressiveness, depending on one's personality, thought will interpret it accordingly. And what comes up quite frequently for people in a retreat is the fearful question, am I losing my mind? Am I going nuts? Will I still be able to function normally without this anchorage in self-centeredness? I don't mean this pejoratively, but it is anchorage. Knowing who I am, all my assumptions, which, I don't want to question them, even though for a moment they were blown away. Assumptions of being separate, assumptions of you being separate from me, assumptions that the story of my life is me, that I have to prove myself, assumptions that I'm no good or that I'm terrific, and they alternate with each other. Well, you find that practically everything that makes up this mind is memory, knowledge, assumptions, based on what? Past stuff, past training, past reading, past association with people, parents, teachers, friends, and their influence. And that's the mind which is being rattled. We don't realize this at the moment. At the moment that the thought comes up, am I losing my mind? We don't realize what this mind is. It's just the word mind, and that's scary, to lose this mind, which sort of stands for something that we are. So when such a question comes up, ask yourself, what is this mind that I'm so afraid to lose? That seems to be falling apart. What is it really? It's a very fertile question to let it guide the inquiry, to find whether there's anything to this mind. I'm spelling it with a small m, but what has been mentioned: memory, knowledge, anticipations, projections, storyline, pictures ad infinitum. And then comes another consideration at times like this, times of opening. Why, if everything is so simple, so clear, even just for a moment, why do we get so involved in complexity, in difficulty, in sorrow, in antagonism, in paranoia, projecting enemies? And then again, according to our conditioning, we may if we're pessimistically inclined, think, well, what a hopeless case this is. This is the true state, but look at us. Look at us, the way we can't cope. And seem to get into deeper and deeper messes with ourselves and each other. Don't listen to these thoughts. Take them as conditioned comments. I mean, listen to them, but don't think that they're telling you the truth about yourself and the world. But see them as thought projections based on conditioning, personality. For someone it may be a lighter question. Why get so caught up when there is all this space of seeing and wisdom available, if only for moments at a time? Why do we live so darkly, so messy, caught up, troubled, sorrowful? Of course, I understand we don't live like this all the time, but it's a very fundamental question. Drove the Buddha from his home, seeing sorrow that he had never witnessed, as long as he was sheltered there in his palace. Why do human beings suffer? So, if that question comes up, welcome it. Say hello to it. Because very often people say, I don't have a question. I don't know where my urgency is. I have no curiosity. I have no driving energy. Well, so when a question like this manifests, let it guide you. Why do we get so sucked into worrisome thoughts, moods, projections of doom? Ask it and don't answer it. But use it as an opening question to watch how we live. And maybe catch it every once in a while, how we got caught up, how it happened. Usually we only notice it after it has happened. But it's possible to see the hook as it arises, ready to get hooked. And if you watch over the years, over the decades, there's no end to watching, to observing, to finding out, to learning about ourselves as human beings who are so much alike in all of these processes. As you observe over the years, there is a wisdom unfolding. And maybe also some love for this life, which comprises both confusion and clarity, suffering and joy, pain and pleasure, caught upness and disentanglement. And the key to it is to be with what presents itself in a non-methodical way, because no method can capture this moment of letting it be. Dropping the resistance to letting it be, because the resistance is seen as an obstacle to wholeness, to oneness. And what is seen as an obstacle does not persevere. That's the magic of seeing. And the magic of not knowing how to go about this is an opener to look I don't know, so I have to look freshly. I have to listen and touch and find out freshly. Because basically I don't know how to go about this thing of being with this pain or this fear or anger. What is it really? If I don't know it, I don't name it, I don't allow all these past assumptions to take over, then I feel cut off from myself and from you and from the world. And then thought says, well, if I don't know, how will I be able to function when I go back home? Don't worry. The network is well established. The conditioning is in place in an amazing strength. But maybe there will be some more witnessing, observing, presenting with it. Not to get rid of this stuff, but to illuminate it. Make it light and visible. And see that it's fundamentally born of illusion. To people who are asking, why does it take so long to get enlightened? Or this is the one thing I want in my life, is to get enlightened. There is no I to get enlightened. That's illusion. There's only being here with what's here, without division, with eyes open, eyes and ears open, to let everything reveal itself as it is. And maybe feel this love, in loveness with life as it is. Don't underestimate the power of thought and concept, idea, to keep us, how do you say, on a noose, on a stranglehold. And witness the power of ideas, cutting into a moment of presence. A moment of presence in which the sound of the bell rings right here, not out there. The caw, 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 the whole body is reverberating with it. And then the thought, well, is this enlightenment now? Am I enlightened? No, I'm not. Because at this moment, this whole thing is overshadowed by thought and concept and memory and wanting. See, thoughts are so powerful because they are not just ephemeral little electrochemical functions, but they get this whole body going into amazing symptoms of grief, pain, anger, fear, or desperation, panic. And then an agitated, mobilized body seems to be so real, so truthful, that it arouses more thoughts about itself. There must be something to be afraid of or to be angry about. or to be desperate for. The body feels so real that it's taken for a true significance, whereas it has been mobilized and agitated by thought and memory about what I have or should have, be or should not be, what I am or am not. Amazing. That's a human burden. And that's why we need to come to understand the functioning of thinking and thought from the past, thinking in the present. And please, we're not saying thought is bad. Somebody mentioned to me that last night in the group this came up. Well, is thought bad? It sounds, when listening to you people or to the speaker, as though thought is something bad. I wasn't there, so I'm not quoting it right. But there is this thing hovering in every retreat. I shouldn't be thinking because it's bad. That's more thought. Very effective thought to get one all confused. Thought isn't bad or good. Watch it. Find out what it is, what it does. So you know firsthand. You don't have to ask anybody whether it's good or bad. You find out in this living organism how thought operates. And you also find out, maybe to your amazement, that at a moment of openness, we're not defining moment in terms of length of time, at a moment of openness, there can be thought, but it doesn't do much of anything. It is sort of just the ingrained activity of the brain to pour out, to print out stuff. Or, at a moment of clarity, thought can be very helpful to think clearly about what needs to be done, how to go about a task, taking in as much as one can of the whole situation, thinking clearly and thinking, approximating the facts, not way off on some tangent of imagination or fantasy. And here, I already hear somebody say, well, what's wrong with fantasy, imaginative thought? Nothing is wrong with it. That's where our art and music, writing, architecture comes from. Imaginative thought, creative imagination. So, the only question one could ask is, does it take place in open space or very ego involved? I have to do this so I can get appreciation and gratitude and fame, money. Or does it have breathing space in the creation, in the creative thinking? The awareness is not far away. The sun is pouring in on it. So when the question comes up, as it does for probably every retreatant in every retreat, at one time or another, early or later, what am I doing this for? What's the sense of it? What's the results of it? See how that thought operates on the body, on the mood. See it as a thought. If you really want to find out what you're doing it for, then give attention to this moment of sitting or walking. And the question will open up into a live presence that needs no purpose, no assigned meaning. It doesn't point toward anything beyond itself. It just is. Sunshine and breathing, warming and sweating, being here with enough love to go around and then some more. Because you may think right now, well, this happens maybe for you and them, but not for me. This is subversive thought, habitual, always down on oneself, comparing to others who are doing things better. Watch it, recognize it, and don't be sucked in by it. You don't know what you are beyond these thoughts. What are we beyond all the thoughts about ourselves that we and other people have thought about ourselves a whole lifetime long? Is that what we are? Or is there something that is not touched by thought? Even though thought can be rumbling around, it doesn't matter. I said that last night too, or some other time, when one gets very disconcerted over fantasies really augmenting. Somebody said, I think I've got more than I had when I came in. Somebody else said, you think you're just more aware? And he said, no, there's more fantasizing. So, see it. And maybe a switch can happen on its own. It's not intentional, it happens on its own. From worrying and reacting to what is seen, the fantasies, to just seeing. So there are fantasies, the next moment there's something else, judgments. But the seeing is there. If one will just see through the obstructions in an intelligent way. See obstructions for obstructions and not take them seriously. Give them energy by fighting them or lamenting about them. We're not our fantasies. We're not our story. We're not our imagery. So then what are we? You and me, all taken together. What are we? we will end here for today.